It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Joe Salas. How are you doing today?
Awesome, buddy. Excited to be on your program.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you got started in coaching?
In coaching, I think probably like most coaches, when I played the game, I fell in love with the game. But even more importantly is the coaches that coached me had such a profound impact on my life that, very early, probably as a junior in high school, I knew that, I wanted to be a football coach in a small town, and I wanted to make a difference with kids. And that's, I grew up in a single parent home. And so I didn't really have a male role model. So my football coaches played that role for me. And I wanted to do the same. I knew that I wanted to impact kids and make a difference. And football is just a vehicle to do that.
Can you talk about how you got started with the Chalk Talk?
Got started on YouTube. I was the D coordinator at Clinton High School, and I knew I wanted to be a head coach again, and I had all this knowledge about the air raid, so I figured, why not go on YouTube and start creating a brand, and then it happened really fast. Like within 2 months, I was a head football coach again, and so then I had to make a decision that I want to continue with the YouTube channel or not. And but I was having so much fun doing it, and I was getting such good feedback from people that I decided to keep doing it. And and really glad I did. I've made so many relationships through the channel and learned so much. It's every week that I pick up at least one little thing that makes a difference, whether it's scheme wise or culture wise. So it's one of the smartest moves I ever made was jumping in there when I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just filming the episodes on my iPhone and uploading them straight to YouTube. But it ended up being one of the best things I've ever done.
Can you talk about how you had it to balance coaching and the YouTube life?
Say that again.
How you had it to balance being a coach along with trying to upload videos, like interview people?
Well, initially, and well, really, even to this day, I really, during the season, I just didn't do a whole lot. It was mainly an off-season deal. I think last year during the season, I only uploaded 2 or 3 videos just because, I think we had the hurricane week, and I did a video then, and now, with us playing in February, I've just been able to keep going, through what would normally be the season. But typically, I just, don't do a whole lot during the season. The season is kind of it's a beast all unto itself, and kind of takes up all my time. So I just don't do as much. And then as soon as the season's over, I get right back to it. And most coaches are that way. I can tell even now, about half the country's playing, half the country's not. And I could tell just by the views on the channel that, that guys are busy and they just don't have time for it like they do in the off season. Football coaches are a weird bunch. As soon as the season's over, you click in the clinic mode. Yeah, I guess if you're a college coach, you click in the recruiting mode. But if you're a high school coach, you immediately go into, you might take a week off to kind of decompress, and then you really start into this clinic mode mindset where you're wanting to get better. And so that's when the videos really pick up. That's when my output of videos picks up, and that's when the views really pick up, is because coaches are so crazy about trying to get better.
Can you talk about how you came up with the segment Champion Culture?
The podcast, it was just kind of a goal that I wanted to do a podcast, and I just picked, I picked the topic that I was most passionate about. That the culture, building culture is probably the thing that most excites me. It's the thing that when I'm reading, doing my own reading, I'm always reading about how you build culture, and I enjoy hearing other people talk about how they do it in their program. And so it's just kind of my passion pit, and the kind of the same deal. Didn't really know what I was doing when I got started. Luckily, I found that I don't know if you use the Anchor app, but not yeah the Anchor, and so it kind of made it easy to get going on it, because the Anchor app does so much of the work for you. But it was just a passion pit, and I knew from talking to other YouTubers that you really it's really about what you learn. It's so hard. Everyone talks about making a lot of money on YouTube. You really don't make any money, but you build relationships, and you just learn so much from the people that you talk to. And so I knew if culture was my passion pit, then I would get the chance to talk to the best people in the country about how you build culture, and I would get to learn from it. So I always say, the YouTube channels, I'm just truly interested in learning about building culture, and when I get to talk to everybody, I get to steal their ideas.
Who have you interviewed? I know that you've interviewed Coach Brooks from Aycock, but who are some other interviews that you've interviewed to hear about their culture on their
Well,
football team?
obviously, Steve, and he's an elite guy. So I've had him on the channel to do football stuff, and I've also had him on the podcast to talk about culture. And he always does a great job. Matter of fact, his Y Cross video is one of the most popular videos on our YouTube channel. And but here recently, and it's funny saying coming from a football guy, but probably the two most impressive guys I've talked to recently are two basketball coaches. Travis Pate, who's the head basketball coach at West Bladen, just came on and just put on a clinic on leadership and culture and how you build them. And then just this last episode, Chris Davis, who's the head basketball coach at Millbrook High School, man, he just had just gold. He was just dropping gold, about just little tiny different things that he did in this program that made such a difference with kids. And because that's what culture is about. Culture is about shaping the behaviors of the people in the program, and he just had some just phenomenal ideas. So probably the two that jump out immediately are the two basketball guys that came on recently, and I'm trying to get different sports in it. And we've had business people on, just anywhere, any group. All groups have a culture, and so just you can learn from anybody. But those two basketball guys were super impressive.
Are there any local coaches on your around you that you've had on your podcasts?
Um, yeah, I had my own baseball coach on. Who else have I had on local? Steve's been on. Uh, I've had the coach from Tarboro. What's his name? Craddock. He's been on. I mean, most of the people I've done some out of state people, but most of the guys I talk to are guys that I've coached with before. So that means they're either in Georgia or North Carolina or South Carolina. So I'd say most of them are local.
What do you see your podcast doing in the future?
I mean, I just to keep talking to guys who I admire. That's kind of anyone I put on the podcast is someone who either I know personally, and I know what an elite culture builder they are, or people who are referred to me by other coaches because they do such a good job of building culture. So to me, it's just going to keep being what it is. It's going to be me getting to talk to the best culture builders in the country, and always looking to steal an idea here or there. And it's you could almost, I think we're 19 episodes in, and you could probably get a master's degree just listening to each episode, because each episode there's at least just one just game changing, program changing idea in each of those podcasts. That's right there. When you're dealing with elite people and they're telling you exactly how they do it, and then you get to pick and choose which of those ideas you're going to steal and use. And it's such a niche. The podcast doesn't get nearly as many views as the YouTube channel gets, so it's really a small niche. About 200 between the podcast and the YouTube channel. It's about 200 views per episode on the championship culture. So it's such a small niche that people don't hold anything back, because they know not very many people are going to watch it. So they just share their very best ideas and their very best things they do. And it's just a gold mine. It's just listening to great coaches tell you how they do it. And I hope it just keeps going exactly the way it is, because I get better every time I do it.
Has with going through this, has it helped your program with your football team?
Absolutely. I think we're in a place where almost every Friday the other team has better athletes than us. So what has been the key to us being so successful over the last 2 years? When the year before I got there, they were winless. They were 0-11, and we've been a playoff team the last 2 years in a row. And I attribute most of that to the culture we built, and we're always, that continual, never-ending improvement that's coming from the books you read and the podcasts you listen to, and for me, a lot of it is my own podcast, because it's the people I'm talking to on that podcast. But to be elite, you got to constantly be looking for the one little thing that can make you better. And that's what that podcast is about. It's about learning from the best and getting a little bit better. You can't steal all their ideas, because then it's not your program, but you can always steal just one little tweak, one little idea that can impact your program and make you better.
Over the years, have you seen that your players have come to you, like while they're watching the show, be like, Coach Joe, I want to do this that maybe like Aycock does, or like vice versa?
Well, they don't call me Coach Joe, but no, they kids, like I said, the podcast is such a niche, that is usually a certain kind of coach that watches that. That's really not anything that kids would enjoy listening to. The kids, we created a whole series of videos for the kids, our insertion videos. So we have some teaching videos on the YouTube channel for them, but mainly the podcast, that's more for coaches, and it's really just a certain kind of coach that listens to those. But we've had great success with the YouTube videos and the kids learning. We put our insertion schedules on there and our teaching tapes on there, and that's what the kids watch those. And it's especially like during this COVID time, it was ideal. Our kids could watch the videos and get better just by putting YouTube on. So it's definitely a plus.
That's wonderful. What advice would you give upcoming high school athletic coaches that are looking to get into football?
I would say, go for it. That it's definitely a calling. It's uh, it's a job that you're always going to have fun in and always going to love, and it's a job that can make such a difference in the world, especially right now. That kids need role models, and they need to be taught how to be a man. And our mission statement is teach boys how to be men and build winners for life. And our whole goal and our whole drive is to teach young men how to be men after football. because anything, there's a saying that says life ain't all about football, but football is all about life. So it's all a microcosm. All the things you face in the sport of football, and we think they're tough when we're going through them in football, but they're nothing like what you're going to face in life. So losing a game could hurt your feelings, but when you're a grown man, you might lose your house, you might lose your job, you might lose your wife, you might, so the toughness and the grit and the determination and just the idea that a kid needs to know that he's made out of the right stuff, and that there's nothing bigger, too big for him, and that he's made of the right stuff, and that he is a conqueror, not a victim. And I think that's something that, especially today, if you go around thinking you're a victim, you're going to find lots of ways to get victimized. But if you go around knowing that you're tough and that you're made of the right stuff, then some of those situations that would knock most people down, you'll be able to get through, just because you have some confidence in yourself that you are made of the right stuff. And to me, that's the most important thing, because like I said, I grew up without a father, and football coaches, they played that role as my father, and I could say everything I know about being a man I learned from football and football coaches. And 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 that's what's made me who I am, and that's what I want to give to kids who play for me, is just that ability to know you're made of the right stuff, and you are a conqueror, not a victim. And just the idea of toughness is, toughness is one of our core principles. And to me, toughness, there's three types of toughness. There's physical toughness. That's the one we think about most of the time, and that you develop that in a weight room, and you develop that by playing the sport of football, because it's a tough sport played by tough men. But more important is mental toughness and emotional toughness. And I believe with all my heart that if you're tough, life can be difficult, but if you are tough, life gets a lot easier. But if you are soft, life gets a lot harder. And just understanding that concept, that every day, everywhere you go, everything you go through, good things and bad things are going to happen, but you got to know inside you that you're prepared for both. You can handle the good stuff. Everyone can handle the good stuff, but you can handle the bad stuff too, because you're trained for it, you're built for it, and you got it in you to win.
That's very inspirational. What advice would you give a high school coach that's looking to start their own podcast, just how you did?
uh get your idea first. My idea was that I'm going to ask the same 5 questions to everybody, uh and then use that Anchor app. The Anchor app, to me, is what makes it so easy, is that you're gonna upload it just one time to Anchor, and Anchor's gonna send it out to all the different platforms. So I do like you're doing right now, is I film it on Zoom, so I can put it on my YouTube channel, and then I upload it to Anchor, and Anchor's the one that sends it out to Spotify and Apple and all those different platforms. And but the advice I'd give is probably the same advice you'd give, Brandon, is if you want to do a podcast, do it. That is the start that stops most of us. Go ahead and start. Go ahead and jump in there, especially if you got a theme or an idea that excites you. I think I don't know about you, Brandon, but my podcast excites me. I'm filming mine because it's stuff I want to hear and I want to learn. And so as long as it's exciting me, who else watches, that really doesn't matter to me. I'm in it to learn what I can learn from it.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find your podcast at on social media?
The podcast is on all the platforms. Like I said, it goes through Anchor, so it goes out. You can't name one that it's not on. and then it comes out on YouTube. So the podcast comes out at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, and then the YouTube video comes out on Tuesday. And that's the YouTube one. The channel is about football, usually about air raid or throwing the ball. And then the podcast that comes out on Saturday, that's about building culture and all the different tips that different leaders can share about their organization.
Thank you again, Coach Salas, for your interview, and best of luck in the future with your podcast along with the football program.
Well, thank you, Brandon. Same to you, buddy. I love that you're doing this, and I wish you well on it. And you're being a good example to everyone about just having a dream and chasing it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Salas, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you, buddy.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.